Have you ever looked at old maps and noticed how Africa was once labeled the Dark Continent? It sounds mysterious, but the truth behind the name is far from innocent. For centuries, this label shaped how the world viewed Africa and its people, casting a shadow that still lingers today. The term wasn't about sunlight or secrets, it was about power, about who gets to tell the story and who gets erased. Dark was code for ignorance and danger, painting Africa as a place needing to be discovered and enlightened, ignoring its millions of people and their rich histories. Today, we're peeling back the layers of that nickname to uncover the real story. We'll explore where the term came from, who benefited, and why it's been so hard to shake. This is a story of civilizations, empires, and innovations that were hidden in the shadows. Let's challenge the old narrative and shine a light on Africa's true history. The phrase "Dark Continent" was popularized by Henry Morton Stanley, a 19th century explorer who wrote a book called Through the Dark Continent. Stanley claimed the darkness referred to the forests and the people's skin color, but that's a shallow explanation. His stories sold adventure and mystery to Europe and America, casting himself as a hero in a land supposedly lost in time. This narrative drew a sharp line. Europe was civilized, Africa was dark, a place to be mapped, controlled, and saved. But Stanley's view was narrow. He didn't understand the languages, cultures, or political systems he encountered. To him, anything non-European was primitive, a gross oversimplification that stuck because it flattered Western superiority. The term became a brand, not a fact, and it was exactly what colonial powers needed. It turned Africa into a blank canvas for European fantasies and ambitions. Stanley coined the phrase, but colonial governments weaponized it. The Dark Continent label became a tool for justifying conquest, and that's where the real damage began. Why did the Dark Continent myth catch on with those in power? Because it justified colonialism. During the scramble for Africa, European nations needed a story to excuse their land grabs. The myth painted Africa as chaotic and backward, making colonization seem like a noble mission. Europeans claimed they were bringing Christianity, medicine, and education, a white man's burden. In reality, it was propaganda masking exploitation and violence. King Leopold II called his Congo project humanitarian, but it was a brutal labor camp where millions died. The myth dehumanized Africans, making it easier to steal land, resources, and labor. The Dark Continent wasn't just a nickname, it was the foundation of colonial plunder. It let Europe justify decades of theft and oppression while pretending to be enlightened. This was one of history's most destructive marketing campaigns. The myth's power lay in its ability to turn greed into virtue, and its effects are still felt today. While Europe spun tales of darkness, Africa was a continent of light and achievement. Ancient Egypt's pyramids, mathematics, and medicine flourished long before Europeans arrived. The Kingdom of Kush built more pyramids than Egypt and was a major ancient power. The Mali Empire, led by Mansa Musa, was a global center of wealth and learning. Timbuktu's libraries rivaled any in the world. The Kingdom of Aksum traded with Rome and India, developed its own script, and adopted Christianity early on. The rock-hewn churches of Lalibela and the bronze art of Benin show Africa's architectural and artistic genius. These were not societies waiting to be discovered. They were shaping world history. The so-called darkness was Europe's ignorance, not Africa's reality. The continent's brilliance was simply ignored to justify conquest. You'd think the Dark Continent myth would have faded after colonialism, but it's still with us. Western media often shows Africa as a place of poverty, war, and crisis, a single negative story. This narrative echoes the old colonial mindset, Africa as a place needing rescue. Positive stories, like South Africa's tech boom or Nigeria's film industry, rarely make headlines. Education systems have also left out Africa's rich history, making it easy for stereotypes to persist. When you only hear about problems, you start to believe that's all there is. The myth creates a cycle. Negative coverage reinforces old ideas, which leads to more negative coverage. It shapes everything from tourism to foreign policy, fueling unconscious bias. Breaking the cycle means seeking out new stories and challenging what we think we know. Only then can we see Africa's true diversity and potential. How do we move past the myth? By seeking a fuller, more balanced picture of Africa. That means looking beyond headlines and finding stories of innovation, art, and progress. Africa isn't a single story. It's 54 countries, each with unique cultures and histories. Lumping them together under one stereotype is absurd. From Morocco's markets to Namibia's landscapes, Africa is a tapestry of diversity. We need to shift the narrative. Africa isn't just a recipient of aid, but an active global partner. Think of Afrobeats music, Kenya's mobile banking revolution, or African scientists shaping global health. Most importantly, we must listen to African voices, writers, filmmakers, and creators telling their own stories. Amplify these voices, follow their work, and let them show the continent's true light. The power to change the narrative is in our hands. It's time to see Africa as it really is. We've unpacked how a catchy phrase became a tool for empire and why it still shapes perceptions today. The Dark Continent was never about geography. It was a story crafted to justify exploitation. Africa's real history is one of empires, learning, and innovation. The darkness was in the ignorance of those who spread the myth, but stories can be rewritten. We can challenge old narratives by seeking out new voices and supporting Africa's creators and leaders. Let's put the myth in the dustbin of history and finally see Africa's true, brilliant light. Because the only thing dark about Africa is how long it's been kept in the shadows.